So, guys, many Nigerians are raising alarm on how the Northerners are, condemning the strike of Israel that led to the death of this Iranian leader. Northerners don't condemn the terrorists raiding Nigeria. Northerners don't condemn the terrorists kidnapping Nigerians, spying people, abducting and all kinds of menace. Just today, they've been this headline that Boko Haram attacked the military base of our Nigerian army and unalived some, a general was involved, and also, about four to six soldiers, guys. But guess what? They are quick to condemn the US-Israel strike that led to the death of the Iranian leader. Now, I'm going to read out some of these headlines just for you to see. Somebody like Gumi has been called out for condemning the US. See what Gumi said. A lucky soul who died in jihad. Islamic cleric Sheikh Gumi react to Khamenei's death. Khamenei is the Iranian leader that the US in conjunction with Israel has unalived. And this other person is, according to Sheikh Gumi, Ayatollah Khamenei is a great man who fought for justice. In the same way, he sees Islamic terrorists killing and kidnapping Nigerians as fighting for justice. Why are many northern Muslims this pathetic? Many northern Muslims are condemning the US for going after this Iranian leader. Now, this other person reacted and said Gumi called it a jihad. You can imagine. Gumi said this man is fighting a jihad. So for them, jihad is a good thing. So the man should be expecting his reward. He'll be given vengeance and all that. Now, this other headline here says, Gumi react to Khamenei's death. Lucky soul, he died in jihad. So this is Sheikh Gumi, saying that man died in jihad. He was spotted in a video where he made this statement. Islamic cleric Sheikh Gumi condemns US-Israel airstrike that killed 40 children at Iranian elementary school. Says we must pray to Allah to end oppressors. So he said they should pray to Allah to end oppressors. So guys, I don't even understand what Sheikh Gumi is up to. This Iranian leader, Trump gave this man so much room for negotiation. In fact, at a time, people began to condemn Trump. If you've been watching international media houses, some of them say Trump deceived Iranians into protesting, and now they protested. Thousands of them were killed. Trump didn't come to their rescue. People were now talking down on Trump, but Trump did not just want to strike Iran. Trump wanted negotiation, and he was like begging this man, come for negotiation, at least come, let's start talking. They just looked down on Donald Trump, ignored him, guys, and now Donald Trump and Netanyahu have teamed up. And guess what? Within a twinkling of an eye, the way this man died, just one strike, guys. One strike in a military building is what brought down this man's life, guys. Unbelievable. I say one strike. In that place, he was having meeting with top military leaders. And guess what? This strike, he killed his top people in his regime. I mean, if this man had even survived, he would die sooner. I mean, because he has lost so many people. And guess what? That strike took unalive him and so many members. Now, I'm going to allow you to take a look at how Arise TV has reacted to this news. But, it's really worrisome to see how some northerners on the internet space are, condemning the US and Israel for this attack, even though they know that Israel has been warning that Iran is, making chemicals, uranium, that which is very, very deadly for the region. And the US has been telling them, come, let's make it deal. Come, let's talk. In short, people will always ask Trump, what is your position? Trump will say he believes that he will come for a deal. So Trump actually wanted that deal to happen. Trump didn't want to strike because one of his campaign promises is to come and make peace. So why will he start a new war? But Iran ended up proving so stubborn. And at the end of the day, killing thousands, some people say 40,000, some people say 60,000 of protesters that protested recently, guys. Many of them were died, many of them were unalive. At the time, people were like saying Trump told them to protest. Now they protested, Trump didn't come to their rescue. But now you can see what the US is doing. Just one strike that Israel led, took down the life of this man. Anyway, I'm going to allow you to take a look at how Arise TV News has reacted to this.
Oh, good morning, Howard.
And let me actually know your thoughts in the comment section below. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell notification for more.
All right, good morning to you viewers. I was about to tell you what's happening around the world now. You are welcome to a very special edition of the World Brief. Iranian state media has officially confirmed that Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, Iran's highest authority since 1989, is dead. The 86-year-old Supreme Leader was killed in a joint US-Israeli military strike on Tehran on Sunday, 28th of February of this year, 2026. He was killed alongside his daughter, son-in-law, and granddaughter. A 40-day national mourning period and 7 days of public holidays have been declared in Iran. We will break down the historic happenings of the past 24 hours. But first, let's take a moment to look at how his death was tearfully announced by Iranian state media.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. من المؤمنين رجال صدقوا ما عاهدوا الله عليه فمنهم من قضى نحبه ومنهم من ينتظر وما بدلوا تبديلا إنا لله.
Well, those emotional words were in Farsi, but the tears and the pain heard can be understood despite any language barrier. But in English, another Iranian state broadcaster had these extremely stern words of warning for the US President Donald Trump and his allies. Let's take a listen to that.
This is not over. Trump is going to pay a price paid by no American president at all time, paid by no Zionist of all time, paid by no criminal of all time. Trump is going to see, because revenge is coming, and revenge is coming soon, and revenge is coming after Trump, after everybody who facilitated this assassination. He will pay the ultimate price.
So very, very stern words there. Now, US President Trump himself did call on Iranian security forces to lay down their weapons and invited Iranians to topple their government once the bombing ended. Now, Iran, for its part, has called the strikes unprovoked and illegal and has retaliated. It's launched missiles towards Israel and also towards Gulf states hosting US assets, including Qatar, Kuwait, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, with several governments saying that they had intercepted incoming missiles. Jordan also reported interceptions. Now, this explosion you're seeing on your screen was seen in the Qatari capital of Doha. Now, the General Civil Aviation Authority has also announced a temporary partial closure of the United Arab Emirates airspace. The exceptional precautionary measure has been taken to ensure the safety of flights, passengers, and air crews across the country. But it also has unleashed travel chaos across the region. Now, you can see the crowds of passengers. This is at Dubai International Airport. Now, Etihad, which services Abu Dhabi, says that all flights to and from Abu Dhabi are suspended until 2 a.m. local time on Monday. Israel. Now, Israel was also struck by Iranian missiles landing in Tel Aviv. Now, air raid sirens could be heard as Israel launched interceptors against incoming missiles. This is significant because it expands the battlefield beyond just Israel and Iran. Clearly, what we've seen across the Middle East, across the Gulf region, is chaos. And clearly, states that typically work hard to avoid direct conflict are now having to raise the risk of a sustained regional escalation, even if these countries do not enter the war politically. A huge mess. Now, coming over to the United States, in New York, the United Nations Security Council did gather with the United States and Israel, clashing with Iran, as you can imagine, at that emergency meeting of the UN Security Council, where the UN Chief Antonio Guterres and many countries urged a halt to their attacks and a return to negotiations to prevent the conflict from spreading further into the region and beyond. beyond. Now, Secretary General Antonio Guterres did tell the Council that everything must be done to prevent an escalation. Clearly, we can see that that hasn't happened yet. Now, the world continues to be on standby. The potential blockade of the Hormuz threatens nearly 20% of global oil shipments alongside significant LNG exports, particularly from Qatar. Now, oil and energy markets have already reacted. We've seen prices jump on the news of conflict and threats to the route. Now, if traffic is fully blocked, even if only for a few days, analysts are warning that oil prices could spike dramatically. Now, potentially they could double depending on how long the closure lasts for. And as for Iran, it is now facing a vacuum, a leadership vacuum after Khamenei's death. I did hear you discuss the people who would be leading in the interim, but under the Iranian constitution, interim control shifts to a council made up of the president, judiciary chief, and a guardian council member essentially they will all be together until a new supreme leader is chosen by the assembly of experts. Now, we can expect a period of continued uncertainty. However, Mr. Steve, this was literally history happening right before our eyes.
Absolutely.
We know that over the course of the week and before then in Geneva, that was the host of negotiations between Iran, between the United States, brokered by Oman. Oman known to be a friend to everybody in the region and beyond. And when we did hear news breaking around Thursday to Friday that those negotiations had ended without any concrete peace resolution, perhaps people may have thought that escalation could be on the card, but the escalation of this magnitude, I do think, caught a lot of people by surprise. So this is the reality that we have. The supreme leader has been killed. It is confirmed. You know, when the news did break late last evening, there was some back and forth. Iran at first had denied that he had been killed, said that he was still directing forces until finally they did admit that he had been killed, that his body had been recovered from the rubble. Wow. Here we stand with literally history on our fingertips. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Absolutely. I mean, a different brilliant, analysis to start with. Yesterday when it broke, we discussed this matter, fairly extensively, yesterday, and nobody knew, that where we'll be is that on the first day, of that conflict, the 86-year-old Khamenei, will be taken out, so soon, and in such a dramatic, manner. Isn't it interesting, therefore, that after all the attempts towards what looks like negotiation, like peace, Trump has always spoken about peace. Here we have, ended up with. It looked like, just like you rightly observed, it looked like it was Israel, that was leading the pack. Yes. And then almost all of a sudden, it became a joint thing. And so to me, this is like clearly an end, of an era to Khamenei. But then it also looks like the beginning of a major conflict for which we may not know at what point it will stop, not just for Iran, but also for Middle East, in region, the Gulf states, given the way that Iran has responded, and not just to attack formations, American formations in several Gulf states, but, touching on residential places, touching on hotels, in UAE, in Bahrain, in Qatar, and a situation looks so dire, at this point. And then Trump is saying, this must end up in a regime change. And you have broken down, what it takes for a successor, to be appointed. The one that intrigues me more is the jubilation that we have seen. Yes. Not only in Tehran.
People are very happy. Yeah. People are happy.
All over the places in London and everywhere. But then we also see, from what the broadcaster, the woman broadcaster that we had there saying that, this will be costly and that the price might be paid. Who therefore can lead Iran, after this, and what is the future of the region after all this will have ended, if it doesn't get to what people fear, which will be the beginning of World War III. We hope, of course, and pray that it doesn't get to that point. Yeah. But who knows what can happen?
And, this regime change is also quite a scary topic to discuss, because how many successful regime changes brings in an Ayatollah that is not so bloodthirsty and violent.
Exactly.
The first one was terrible. It seems like the second one, everyone is rejoicing that he's gone. Who is going to fill that vacuum? And really, what can be done to prevent this escalation from spilling over? We've seen the knee-jerk reaction from Iran and, of course, bombing different places that don't necessarily have anything to do with the conflict. So we just hope that everything can be contained.
It is very tough.
It's very tough right now.
Absolutely. But Adefemi, there's also a point that I'd like to quickly add. Trump seemed to have won the American people that there might be casualties, you know, which is an indication that this might be a long drawn thing.
Yes.
But then there doesn't seem to be, there's no congressional approval, so to speak.
Right.
They're
very upset about
as
that.
to going into this sort of a war.
This is it.
Do you think that there will be another battle that Trump will have to face back home while the war is raging?
This is the thing. It is likely that there are going to be political consequences for Donald Trump. And it is tough because he clearly has shown that his own definition of presidency is supreme power above everybody else. Do it first and then deal with the consequences later. So this is just another example of that. What is very interesting is that when we're looking at US President Donald Trump and his foreign policy, it almost feels as though he's talking out of both sides of his mouth. On the one hand, he talks about how he is putting out all of these geopolitical fires. He's pushing for peace. He's ending wars. And then on the other hand, you see him going into other countries, taking a president, taking them into the United States, putting them on trial.
That was Maduro.
Maduro in Venezuela.
Yes.
Let's not forget what he did here in Nigeria.
Absolutely. Christmas Day, dropping bombings. Even though the narrative is that this was in connection with the Nigerian government, we are seeing
that America was invited and is now
speaking
glowingly about our first lady.
Absolutely. But America surely were not invited into Iran. Surely not. So what we're seeing here is it is very difficult to really be able to predict what happens next when it comes to US focus, their own foreign policy. It is very difficult because now we're looking ahead at, what happens next. When we heard Donald Trump speak to the people of Iran, he said that essentially this is the time for your own jubilation. It is time now for you to take your future in your hands. Finally, you have a US president who is going to give you what you need. But we don't really see the steps on how that's going to happen. When it comes to violence, we always know that violence begets more violence. When someone loses someone, you will feel that there is always going to be an intention for those deaths to be avenged. So we don't know what the real repercussions are going to be. From a geopolitical standpoint, I think before it was confirmed that the supreme leader had been killed, perhaps what we were seeing were examples of controlled escalation. Yes, they had been negotiating with words and it didn't really happen. Nothing really happened. And then you had Israel and the United States drop some bombs. There were casualties, and that is significant. We cannot minimize that, but perhaps we just thought that this is just, again, the United States and Israel flexing their muscles, saying that if you guys don't want to come to the negotiation table, this is what we can do. But then Iran responded, targeting all of the US infrastructure that they have across the Gulf region. Again, someone could argue this is controlled escalation. But when we do have the confirmation that the supreme leader was killed, then you understand that Israel's actions are emotional. They are furious with what has happened with the United States. And that type of anger doesn't go away with negotiations. It's going to be very, very tough to see a peaceful way out. We see the footage of the UN Security Council. The representative of Iran was not happy. You've got the fact that these are men.
The UN is so powerless in
This
all
is
of
it.
this, isn't it?
This is it.
Toothless,
This is
isn't
it.
it?
This is it. And so when you have a president like Trump talk about the United Nations not being powerful, not being able to do what it needs to do, this is an example of that, because sometimes we have gone beyond the point of dialogue and negotiations. We literally have gone past that because this country is now without their supreme leader. Are people happy? Are people jubilating? Yes. But as we heard from those state broadcasters, there are people who are devastated and people who are calling for Donald Trump's head. I just can't see where this can happen peacefully. When we're looking at the causes of this, for people who are watching at home, The initial rhetoric was about Iran and its nuclear capabilities. The world is deathly afraid of Iran being able to develop a nuclear weapon. But as we've said many times, many countries in this world have nuclear weapons. The only country in this world, in the history of the world, to ever have dropped a nuclear weapon is the United States.
US.
Right?
Only.
So the only country in the history of the world to have ever used an atomic weapon, a nuclear weapon, is the United States, right? Last year, they dropped bombs on different sites in Iran and said that they had completely obliterated their nuclear capability. And still, it is the nuclear capability that is the justification for this escalation. There is already an existing JCPOA, which really was the agreement that kept everybody calm. But it does come across that perhaps Trump doesn't believe in the JCPOA, perhaps because it was Obama who did it. And maybe he wants his own negotiation deal. We don't really know what the motivations are, but clearly this is going to be very significant for the world very soon.
Very quickly before we let you go, sorry, Awa. Trump is saying that he has an idea of those who can take over, in Iran. But then are we seeing a ghost of what happened in Iraq, in those days, when Saddam Hussein was taken out, and of course Iraq descended into chaos before what looked like a rebuild started. Do you see similarities in what might eventually happen in Iran now that Khamenei is out of the equation?
At this point, it's hard to tell. It's going to be difficult, and it will take time, just as it took time in Iraq. I just want to say that quickly with Iran. Yes, they are geographically very similar to these other countries, Kuwait and Iraq, but ethnically, these people are different. They are not Arabs, they are Persians, they have their own languages. Persians, yes, they are Muslims, but they are predominantly Shia Muslims, whereas the rest of the Arab world are Sunni Muslims. Naturally speaking, Iran has historically been isolated from the rest of the GCC and the rest of the Middle East. This is another example of that. And this is the first time really that we're seeing Iran really get into the ring with the other countries in the region. Usually the narrative is that countries like Iran and Saudi Arabia would never go to war because essentially nobody would win. Their geographical locations means that if someone were to strike each other, the ramifications for the world, for global oil, for trade would be too dear, too bad, too catastrophic. So that is why usually when we see Iran, they're always involved in proxy wars. When it comes to their relations with Saudi Arabia, they are not good friends at all. Saudi Arabia believes that Iran had been funding the Houthi rebels of Yemen to attack them. And that is the belief that Iran funds Hezbollah of Lebanon, the Houthi rebels of Yemen, Hamas in Gaza. So that is why they're really a thorn in the side of many Arab countries.
Mecca the other time.
This is it. So it's very tough.
Adefemi, I must say that's a very impressive and thorough analysis of what's going on in Iran. Thank you.
Have you noticed something? Ever since Iran was attacked and the Ayatollah died, many other Muslim voices on social media became very loud. There are premium tears, anger, sympathy, and strong reactions everywhere. But when people are being killed, kidnapped, and slaughtered every day in the same northern Nigeria, we don't see this level of noise. Is that not hypocrisy? Thousands of northerners have died because of bandits and terrorists. Families are crying. Children are being killed. Villages are being destroyed. These victims are their own people, their neighbors, their relatives, their fellow northerners. Yet, some people seem more emotional about what is happening in faraway country than about the blood being shed in their own backyard. How can you shout louder for Iran while your own people are suffering at home? Think about that for a second. You have more pain for Muslims in Iran, a country thousands of kilometers away, than for your neighbor in Zamfara, your cousin in Kaduna, or your relative in Borno who was abducted last week. How does that even make sense? And here is the part that should make you laugh and cry at the same time. Almost every Muslim country in the Middle East, the actual neighbors of Iran, are standing against Iran in this matter. Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Jordan, UAE, none of them are defending Iran. But Nigerian Muslims are the ones raising flags for Iran. Oh God. The very people Iran does not even consider equals are the ones defending the loudest. And then someone actually typed with his full chest that Nigeria stands with Iran. Which Nigeria? The Nigeria where farmers cannot go to their farms without being killed. The Nigeria where school children are being kidnapped for ransom. That's Nigeria. The hypocrisy is loud. And it is dangerous. Nigerians need to wake up. Nigeria should stand with Nigerians. First, our focus should be ending kidnapping, stopping terrorism, and protecting innocent lives in our own country. Until we fix what is happening here, shouting about foreign countries will not solve our problems. We cannot continue like this. Our house is on fire. This is what we should be fighting to fix. I stand with Sarah. Get out. Register your children in our Igbo Academy and see great improvement. If you also want to learn content, DM me. And we have power banks for sale. If you want it, also DM me. 20K, 30K, and 50K mAh. I'm just a DM.
Remarks on this. I think the world is in such a state we are now because, in my view, because of the irresponsibility of the world powers, who now thinks that because they are powerful, they have the right and the privilege to do whatever they want within the international system. You have the Russians attacking Ukraine, and today you now have the United States and its ally, Israel, doing whatever they want to do or what they had intended to do for so many years. First, we need to understand that the situation we find ourselves today in the Middle East was actually caused by one person, the President of the United States of America. 4 years or 5 years ago, he canceled the Iranian deal made by Obama, which, by the way, was working perfectly well. The International Atomic Energy periodically was monitoring the development in Iran in terms of nuclear development and was issuing reports that they were compiling with the agreement that Obama signed. But Donald Trump came and canceled it for two reasons. One, because of Israel pressure. Netanyahu is a very good friend. Secondly, because Donald Trump wants his name, he does not believe. And one of his major problems is that a man with an ape face, a black man, became president before him, and that has remained so painful to him that anything Obama did, he was prepared to, take it out. Secondly, the Americans and the Iranians, and Israel have framed this initially about Iran developing nuclear capability or capacity. But here is the point. The truth of the matter is that the same Donald Trump, when he bombed the Iranian a couple of, last year, told us that he has arbitrated Iran's nuclear development. So there was nothing more to do. And they were speculating that it would take so many years before the Iranians could rebuild. So exactly what are they doing now? They are killing the leaders of Iran in an attempt to enforce regime change. Again, here's what everybody needs to know. America has attempted regime change so many times, and it has failed. Afghanistan there is a typical example. Libya is a typical example. What do they call it now? Iraq is a typical example. And this is the latest. In the words of Donald Trump himself last night, he's calling on the Iranian people to take over their country. How, for goodness sake, would the Iranians do that? So it shows you that America went into a war and they did not anticipate or prepare for who will take over. So how do we effect a regime change? So here we are again with the possibility of another American miscalculation taking place, but by the end of it, they would have killed so many people as has happened in the past. They would have destroyed, Iran, that was not a threat. Iran, we must emphasize, was not a threat to the United States in any way. Yes, It was sponsoring terrorists, supporting, what do they call them? These guys in Gaza and the rest of them. But it was not a threat to the United States, except that Netanyahu, since he became prime minister, has always wanted to go after Iran. And that's exactly what they are doing today. As for the implication of the war, of course, the world is on an edge. And nobody knows how this will end. But the truth of the matter is that at the end of it all, the Iranians, I'm sure, will rebuild. The Iranians, I'm sure, will take more actions, like they've closed the port of Hormuz or something like that, And I sincerely hope and pray that the international community will rise up and compel these nations to pull back a little and let the people of Iran be. They have suffered because of the economic imposed by the United States over a period of years. Just like Cuba. Cuba has been under sanctions for decades, for more than 6 decades. They've managed to survive, but America wants to make it even worse for them not to be able to survive. So we are at the mercy of superpowers exerting their powers to tell us that they are the most powerful. And in that process, they are not only endangering world peace, they have virtually rendered the United Nations almost impotent in what's going on. And so here we are, dependent on whatever these two major countries, Russia on one side and the United States on the other side, have, in any way they want to define the war. But certainly it's a cause for concern, and I sincerely hope that nations all over the world would realize that it's in the best interest of every nation to come together and try and restore some stability, if they can, check these two countries.
Okay, well, the cover story for this conflict between Afghanistan, between Iran and the US and Israel, at bottom is about the nuclear capability that Iran has been accused of in terms of uranium enrichment. We have had 3 different talks in Geneva, in Oman, and tomorrow, Monday, there was supposed to be another round of talks. After both sides had reported on one side good progress, on another side significant progress, the phrase is used. And now, all of a sudden, we have had this situation. But some people say it's not about uranium enrichment. Some people say this is about America trying to steal other people's oil, whether it's in Venezuela or it is in Iran. That is basically about energy, beyond trying to support Israel. Do you think this is more about...
No, really... I think they missed the point.
Yes.
No,
Please go ahead.
I think, in my view, by the way, I think they missed the point if they limit it that America wants to steal Iranian oil. No, if there is peace in that part of the world, America can afford to buy any oil from any part of the world. Look, the truth of the matter, Ruben, is that since Netanyahu came to power, he has always wanted to go after Iran. But successive American presidents over the years, successive American president over the years has said no. They have refused to cooperate with Netanyahu to attack Iran. And repeatedly, they have continued to warn him against going after the Iranian regime. But with Donald Trump, his friend, and with all sorts of Trump himself wanting to become the king of the world, wanting to show that he has done so many things, but look, just creating problems all over the place, not just around the world, but, even in the United States itself. So it has little to do with oil. Oil might be one issue, but the substantive issue, it's not even the nuclear issue, because it was going well. In fact, there's a report circulating that they had actually all agreed, and as you rightly pointed out, a technical committee meeting was supposed to start tomorrow. And the question there becomes, why did the United States and Israel decide to attack Iran a few days to the commencement of the technical meeting? Simply because they were aware of the fact that the technical meeting will yield one simple answer, and that is that Iran is complying with the agreement. And Iran is ready to make a deal. But if they agree, I mean, if that comes out, and it said that Iran is ready to make a deal, it will now pose challenges to Israel and America in terms of attacking. So they decided a preemptive action before that meeting, which, by the way, has brought an end to any negotiation. And I don't even see Iran returning to the table so quickly. Not when you have more or less done away with some of his, most of his leaders. They need to start again. I hear that there's succession planning that has been done. And until a new guys come into the show or into power, I don't see them doing anything. And by the way, we should not forget that statement that Donald Trump made. He called upon the Iranians to take over their country, meaning, look, I'm done. And remember our own case. He just did one bombing here and we've been left to ourselves. So we are going to witness the Middle East in serious or severe conflict or crisis as a result of the world powers deciding that they can do whatever they want to do and there are no forces on the ground to checkmate them or to check them.
Well, the Iranian foreign minister and also the military commanders in the IRGC, that's the Revolutionary Guard Council, they've been boasting that there will be very serious retaliation. And we have seen some response from them. Now, what's your assessment of that response? To the extent that they targeted most of the countries in the Gulf states where the United States has its military bases. Qatar, Bahrain, the UAE, the Saudi Arabia, and also Israel itself. Even when some of those Gulf states had pointed out before the attack that they will not support the United States, they will not use their territory as a launch pad for United States aggression. And now, from two enemies, Iran has spread out. What's next for Iran? Because it looks like that region now is a major battleground.
Look, the region has been destabilized, Ruben. And that's the most unfortunate thing to start with, because the Israelis and the Americans do not do enough of their homework. Iranians were very clear from the word go that they were going to, retaliate any attack against them. And they warned the Gulf states, they warned the Arab states that, look, if this happened, because you are friends or because you host, American military bases, we are also going to go after American interests in those regions. And that's exactly what we are seeing. Look, I keep saying that we as a Canadian Prime Minister said in his speech in Dover, I think, middle-level powers should find a way to ensure that they maintain that they maintain a concerted agreement to protect the world from some of these happenings. When superpowers decide that they can be irresponsible and jeopardize world peace. Unfortunately, the Arab states, the Gulf states, and so on are going to be victims of what they did not anticipate. But I would also add to this, Ruben. In our previous conversation, I've always said something about this Arab states that, look, if they had come together as a team and they had put the same amount of pressure on the United States that Israel puts on the United States and say, look, yes, we know Iran has not been good to us. We know that Iran has A, B, C, D. But you know what? We do not want you to attack Iran. If you attack Iran, you would jeopardize our own interests. And that would make us, do A, B, C, D. That will also affect you in the United States. If the Arab world has been united in putting pressure on the United States in particular, I'm not too sure that the United States would have just listened to Netanyahu alone and attacked Iran.
Okay, in the lead up to this Saturday morning attack on Iran, the Democrats in the American Congress had said there should be no war against Iran if Trump did not seek congressional approval. They were very clear about that. But now Trump disregarded them the same way he has disregarded the Supreme Court of the United States. And he has done what he has done. He has deployed some of the most sophisticated arsenal, military arsenal ever seen since 1945, including the B-2 and some of the most potent equipment, with 2 aircraft carriers in that region. The USS Abraham Lincoln and the USS Gerald Ford leading the attack in the front. Now, where does that leave American democracy, since it looks like the president has just gone ahead to do what he thinks he must do?
Well, like some democracies elsewhere, it's in some trouble. But the truth of the matter is that Donald Trump does not believe that he's, curtailed by the law. Despite the United States Supreme Court decision, see what he has done. He has imposed another round of tariffs on a number of countries in clear violation of the orders of the Supreme Court. And it's the same attitude that he has imposed. But this is what I would say. If the Democrats can win the Senate or can win the House of Representatives, in November, the truth of the matter is that I envisage that they will go after Donald Trump. And for all I think would happen, Donald Trump might be impeached again. And this time, certainly, he might be taken out of office.
Well, Iran now has announced a temporary transitional council. The Chief Justice, the President, and also Ali Arafi, I think that's his name. Now, they will now have to form an 88-member assembly of experts and then very quickly choose another leader in that country. Now, how do you think the future will turn out for Iran? I heard you when you said, well, it will take time for them to rebuild. But there's also the leadership transition plan that is there with the son of the former Shah, Reza Pahlavi, saying that, he welcomes what has happened. And some people jubilating on the streets of Tehran, or could that be Western propaganda? But leadership transition, what are we likely to look forward to?
Well, look, as it is today, the best we can speculate, and the son of the Shah can rejoice as much as he can. What we need to look at is the situation on the ground. Again, I make the point that the Americans and the Israelis had no plan as to how to effect regime change on the ground. Regime change has never succeeded from the air. And I'm not too sure this would succeed. In fact, the immediate replacement of those that have been killed is a clear indication that America and Israeli desire for regime change, it's on its way to failure. Because the same people, even if they are going to change, it will take them time to change. What I do know, what I do believe, what I think would happen is that they will not be in a hurry for any more negotiations for now, because their first interest and their first plan would be to hold on to power, stabilize the country, and then decide how to move the future of Iran. And if that happens, what we will be questioning would be, what was the sense, or what did it make any sense at all to have done what the Americans and the Israelis have done? Yes, they would have destroyed the past regime. They would have killed a number of people. They would have destroyed some of his nuclear capability. But at the end of the day, members of the old brigade, arbiter new faces, are now leading the country. And I do not see them ideologically changing very quickly because of what has happened. This is a regime that is entrenched in its own ideology. And it will be very difficult to quickly get them out, to be broad-minded or to be liberal or to kowtow to the Americans or the Israelis' desire. So it will be an interesting thing to watch as the next few weeks unfold.
Okay, one statement by President Trump. He says, "It has always been the policy of the United States, in particular my administration, that this terrorist regime can never have a nuclear weapon. Now, what's the morality behind this? Can a sovereign country that has nuclear power dictate that another country cannot acquire nuclear power, even when Iran says it's for agricultural purposes, it's for its own innovative purposes?
I think, Ruben, this is the crux of the matter and where my argument, stands. India has a nuclear power. Pakistan is a nuclear power. The Iron Man or the Little Man in North Korea is every day, North Korea is building up its nuclear capability to a threatening point. The Americans are not attacking him. The Americans are not taking action against him, but they are determined to weaken the ability of Iran to become a nuclear power. Not because Iran is a threat to the United States, but simply because, as I've always maintained, and as so many authors have, insisted, the Israelis simply wants to ensure that there is no power strong enough at any time in the Middle East to pose a threat to Israel. And by the way, I hope you know that Israel has military capability, but nobody says it and nobody actually wants to comment on it. But the whole world knows that Israel has a military capability. And as you rightly said, who gives these countries the right to decide who wants to have a nuclear power or not? It is the responsibility of every country to make its own decisions. So if they decide that it's in their best interest, so if the Israelis in their best interest has nuclear capability, and Iran decides in its own interest to have nuclear capability, who, for goodness sake, is the United States or America or Israel to decide that Iran must not or should not have a nuclear capability? No, that's a decision that has to be made by the people of Iran or the government and the people of Iran themselves. Okay. If Nigeria decides tomorrow to have a nuclear capability, it's our interest.
Okay, just two quick questions. The first is, where is diplomacy? And that takes me to the situation between Pakistan and Afghanistan. Now, both sides are trading blames. It depends on which side you are listening to. Pakistan says it attacked Kabul District 6 because you have the Taliban there. Afghanistan says it is defending itself. It's a question of retaliation. Now, Qatar and Turkey in 2025 are trying to mediate between both countries over this, their border ideological conflict and all of that. But it failed. We have also seen in Russia and Ukraine how diplomacy has not yielded the kind of expected result. It's the same situation that we are facing with Iran and the United States over nuclear energy. Is this the end of diplomacy as we know it? Are we now in a world where diplomacy will not work anymore? What works now, it appears, is might.
No,
might is right.
No, it's not the end of diplomacy, Ruben. And don't, please, there are so many diplomats all over the world. Don't get them out of jail so quickly. No. Look, listen, what we have are people who do not, particularly in the United States today, what we have, it's not a question of whether diplomacy works or it doesn't work. We have people who do not have patience or understanding about how diplomacy works. Diplomacy is patience. It takes a long time to be able to get people to agree on any issue, particularly when they are bitter enemies. The other thing that, and I think I've said this in one of our interviews, that as of today, the Americans are not honest brokers. And then secondly, the way they've been going about it, look, in a very complex situation like this, you just don't think that one visit by a special envoy would bring everybody to the negotiating table. Please, let's go and see what Kissinger did a couple of years ago. He was traveling sometimes secretly all over the place, negotiating left and right until he was able to find a common ground before bringing everybody to the table to sign an agreement. Clinton did it when he brought the Israelis and the PLO together a couple of years ago. But before that signing, there were so many meetings, so many secret meetings, so many concessions made outside the glare of publicity, and a lot was achieved. But today, we now have presidents or leaders who go on television and announce whatever they want to say, who have no patience for diplomacy and to wait to see how diplomacy will work. And this is exactly what has happened in this case. As for the Afghanistan and the Taliban, I find that very interesting because Pakistan, look, those who are fighting the Pakistan Talibans, as we now know them, they were very friendly and helpful to the Talibans. But the problem now is that the Pakistan Talibans now think that they need to take a little bit of Afghanistan and a little bit of Pakistan area and then create the same situation that the Talibans have created in their own territory. And that's just very interesting. I'm not too sure it would happen, but I think that Pakistan has lost patience with them because they've been on this for a long time. And this is why Pakistan is also striking against them. Look, that brings me to the point that we have not discussed. I think that the rest of the globe should find a way of strengthening the United Nations. And the United Nations itself should please find a way to get up quickly and get involved in some of these negotiations, rather than allow various countries or powers to be the deciding factor, as to how to ensure and protect global peace.
Okay, Ambassador, if you say we are not witnessing the end of diplomacy, maybe you will agree that what we are witnessing is the brutalization of diplomacy, the disappearance of those traditional values that underpinned diplomacy as we know it, to this a la carte transactional, might is right, give and get kind of diplomacy. But finally, let me ask you, some Nigerians have been expressing the view that, with the crisis, crude oil spot price is going to go up, and it's gone up about 12% after the escalation of hostilities. Should that be the interest of Nigeria, or what should be our interest as an interested party in global peace? Although I know the Minister of Foreign Affairs has issued a statement about travel advisory, considering the fact that we have many of our compatriots in that part of the world. Is there anything beyond travel advisory that our government can do?
Ruben, let's put it this way. Nigeria and some other oil-producing countries did not start this crisis. They do not encourage it. They are not members of those who created this crisis. Now, if by chance we gain out of it, remember a couple of years ago, there were crises like this that I think it was under Madame Okonjo-Iweala. We established the excess crude account and things like that. Now, whether the point I think we should emphasize is not to rejoice whether we make some gains out of this. There's no doubt that a number of countries will gain out of this. What should concern us most going forward is, yes, we will make more money, but would that money now translate to resolving some of our own internal contradictions and development? I think that's the way I'll put it.
So, guys, a whole lot has been happening. A whole lot has been happening. Nigerians, we all know that we don't want terrorism, especially those of us from the East or the South. We are majority Christians, so we don't need terrorism. We don't fight jihad. We are not interested in killing others because to defend our religion. No, we don't do that. We believe in love. We believe in what Jesus preaches, love one another and all that. Guys, that is our belief. So when it comes to looking at how things are being done in the world today, you just get to know that, honestly, the world really need to come out to condemn what is happening in the world today. Iran is said to have so many proxies, so many terrorist groups. They are responsible for Hamas. They are responsible for Hezbollah. They are responsible for the Houthi group in Yemen. There is another one in Iraq. You know, there are all over the places. These are proxies. Then they use their oil money. Can you imagine? Just like Nigeria has oil, but we don't know what to do with the money. The same thing is happening to Iran. Iran has so much money, but go and check. Their people are living in poverty because they prefer to use that money to fund these terrorist organizations that they believe is going to protect them should any war broke. You know, they have these people to come to their rescue. That's actually what they are doing. So they are in their country. They are also funding other military group, which are terrorist group in other countries, guys. This is unbelievable. So with all these things that you are seeing happening now, you see some of those their proxies who begin to attack like Israel and try to attack America and all that, guys. But see, it's really, really so good that the US is coming to secure the lives of people, you know, to save people, guys. Honestly, I'm really, really so happy to see that Nigeria is going to come out of this. Not Nigeria, that America, Israel is going to come out of all the threats that these people pose to others. So the Israeli Prime Minister was spotted speaking and addressing his people from the rooftop of the Israeli intelligence headquarters in Tel Aviv, announcing new waves of strikes on Iranian regime in Tehran, not from a bunker, not behind closed doors, from the top, in plain sight, guys. Hey, this man is so fearless. I mean, he's really, really so fearless, guys. The Israeli Prime Minister has proven that, see, he is there to defend the Israeli people. I'm going to take you through some of the reactions here, guys. Many Iranians are many Israelis are happy that they are alive to witness what is happening. Donald Trump and Bibi Netanyahu are doing for Iran what Cyprus the Great did for the Jewish people. Thank you, Israel. Thank you, US, guys. This person is an Iranian tweeting, guys. Netanyahu fled Israel when Israel is being hit the most. This is sign of weak leader, coward. Okay, this is what this person is saying. Anyway, I don't know much about that. I just want to say thank you for the support. God bless USA. God bless Iran. God bless Israel. Regime change for Iran. That's what they want. Regime change, guys. And then this other person here is evil. Iranian state media confirmed the strike on February killed Khamenei's daughter, son-in-law, and granddaughter, among others, targeting his residence where family was present. And then this other person here said this project, unshakable confidence, signal Israel military dominance and psychological advantage over a now decapitated Iranian leadership, guys. This fight is going to be long. It's going to be long. He's telling them your useless Chinese-made missiles won't do me anything nor break the spirit of the Jews. To be honest, they knew no missile or drones were overhead or incoming when he made the announcement on the top of the building, but still not in a bunker where a sniper could try to penetrate. So, guys, this is the Israeli Prime Minister coming out to celebrate the achievements so far, guys. Many people are applauding him, also applauding the US for helping in taking down, you know, the regime leader who they don't want. You know, majority of the Iranian people don't really want this government again. They are just tired, sick and tired of this government. But guess what? What you are seeing now is the new wave. So Iranian people are going to breathe. Anyway, let me know what you think about this in the comment section. Please don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell notification for more. Thank you.